the Grand Blackwood Hotel, a relic of a bygone era. It was getting a much-needed facelift. Corporate had drawn up the plans. Months of scaffolding, fresh paint, and new carpets stretched ahead. It should have been a straightforward renovation. Just another job. But then, things took a turn. The 10th, 11th, and 12th floors became a chilling spectacle. The old bones of the building seemed to groan under the pressure of change. Whispers of cold spots and strange noises circulated among the workers. They spoke of tools going missing and reappearing in odd places. The air grew thick with a sense of unease. An unspoken dread settled over the renovation project. The Grand Blackwood had a story to tell, and it was about to unfold.
Grand Blackwood, how may I direct your call?
The phone on Sarah's desk buzzed, breaking the eerie silence of the night. Sarah was the night dispatcher, the lone guardian of the hotel's communication lines during the witching hours. She answered with her usual, "Grand Blackwood, how may I direct your call?" Her voice steady, masking the unease she felt in the dimly lit room.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Only static met her ears, a relentless hiss that seemed to grow louder with each passing second.
Hello? Can you hear me?
She tried again, a hint of annoyance in her voice. Silence. The static seemed to mock her. Just as she was about to hang up, a faint sound came through the receiver. A muffled cry, barely audible but unmistakable. The hair on her arms stood on end, a primal reaction to the unknown. She checked the display. Room 1108, it read. That was impossible. Her heart raced. The entire 11th floor was vacant, shrouded in darkness and silence. Undergoing a complete gut renovation, it was a place of dust and debris, not of phone calls. No phones, no furniture, just bare walls and exposed wires. A place where no one should be. A shiver ran down her spine, the cold touch of fear. This was more than just a bad connection. This was something else, something unsettling, something that defied logic and reason, leaving her with a sense of dread she couldn't shake. Mark, the night manager, was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He had been working at the hotel for over a decade and had seen it all. He prided himself on his logic and reason. To him, everything had an explanation, and there was no room for superstitions or ghost stories. So, when Sarah told him about the strange call, he dismissed it as a prank. He had dealt with prank calls before, and this one seemed no different.
Probably some kids messing around. They always found a way to get the hotel's number and make trouble.
But something in Sarah's eyes told him it was more than that. She looked genuinely scared, and Sarah wasn't the type to get spooked easily. Reluctantly, he agreed to check it out. He couldn't shake the feeling that there might be something more to this.
For peace of mind, he needed to make sure everything was all right, if only to calm Sarah down.
He muttered, grabbing his master key. The key felt cold and heavy in his hand, a stark contrast to the warmth of the hotel lobby. He stepped off the service elevator onto the 11th floor. The air was thick with dust, and the dim lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. Dust hung heavy in the air, lit by the dim emergency lights. It was as if the floor had been forgotten, left to decay in silence. The floor was eerily silent. Not a single sound could be heard, not even the hum of the hotel's machinery. He reached room 1108, the room that had supposedly received the strange call. The door was gone, replaced by a plastic sheet. It flapped slightly in the draft, revealing glimpses of the room beyond. Peering inside, he saw nothing but exposed beams and concrete. The room was under renovation, stripped down to its bare bones. An empty shell, no phone, no furniture, nothing. It was as if the room had never been occupied, a ghost of its former self. And then he heard it. A faint ringing coming from inside the room. The same room that held nothing but dust and debris. The same room that had just received a phone call. It was faint at first, then grew steadily louder. An insistent, demanding ring that seemed to vibrate in his bones. His heart pounded in his chest. This was no prank.
Sarah, you there?
He fumbled for his walkie-talkie.
Mark, what is it? Did you find something?
Sarah's voice crackled back, laced with worry. He took a step back from the room.
There's no phone here, Sarah. The room is completely empty, but I can hear it ringing, clear as day.
Get out of there, Mark. Just get out.
Sarah gasped on the other end. He didn't need to be told twice. He practically ran back to the service elevator, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. As the elevator doors closed, he could still hear the ringing, fading now, but still there. It sent a shiver down his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. He recounted the experience to Sarah, his voice hushed. They agreed to inform the morning staff. For now, they would steer clear of the 11th floor. It was more than just bad vibes. This was something else, something sinister. The Grand Blackwood held secrets, dark secrets, and they were starting to surface. The next morning, Mark relayed the events to Mrs. Henderson, the head housekeeper. A seasoned veteran of the hotel, she had seen her fair share of strange occurrences. She listened intently, her face etched with a mixture of concern and grim acceptance.
"It's happening again," she finally said, her voice barely a whisper.
She explained that years ago, there had been similar incidents on the 11th floor. Guests reporting strange calls, hearing voices, even seeing apparitions. The hotel, in its infinite wisdom, decided to simply replace the phones, as if that would solve the problem. But the calls persisted, and now with the renovations stirring things up, it seemed the spirits were restless once more.
Meanwhile, on the floor above, a guest named Emily was unpacking her suitcase. She had just arrived after a long flight and was eager to settle in. She was on a business trip and had been given a room on the 12th floor. The view from up there was breathtaking, offering a panoramic glimpse of the bustling city below. The hotel was still operational, albeit partially under construction. The lobby was filled with the sounds of construction, a mix of hammering and drilling that echoed through the hallways. She found the constant hammering and drilling a bit bothersome, but the view from her window was quite spectacular. The city lights at night were mesmerizing, almost making up for the noise. As she hung up her clothes, she noticed the curtains in the room seemed to move slightly. It was a subtle motion, almost as if someone had brushed past them, a gentle swaying motion, as if a breeze were blowing through the room. But there was no open window, no draft that could explain it. She found it odd, considering the windows were tightly shut. She walked over to the window, double-checking to make sure it was indeed closed. Perhaps it was some sort of automated system to keep the air circulating. She glanced at the air vent, wondering if it could be the source of the movement. She shrugged it off and continued unpacking. After all, she had a busy day ahead and couldn't afford to be distracted by something so trivial. She had no idea that the strange phenomena extended beyond the 11th floor. The entire building seemed to be caught in a web of eerie occurrences that no one could quite explain. From flickering lights to unexplained noises, the hotel had an unsettling atmosphere that left guests feeling uneasy.
The 11th floor became a no-go zone for the staff. The renovation work continued on other floors, but the 11th floor remained untouched, a silent testament to the unexplained. Mark avoided it like the plague. The memory of that ringing phone in an empty room was still fresh in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that the hotel itself was watching him, judging him. The stories from Mrs. Henderson played on his mind. What had happened on that floor all those years ago? What secrets did the Grand Blackwood hold? He couldn't help but feel that the renovation had awoken something ancient and malevolent, something that should have remained undisturbed. The renovation of the Grand Blackwood Hotel continued. The hammering and drilling echoed through the halls, a constant reminder of the ongoing transformation. But the 11th floor remained untouched, a silent, empty space in the heart of the bustling activity, a constant source of unease and speculation. The phone calls ceased, the strange noises subsided. But the feeling of unease lingered. A palpable tension hung in the air. The Grand Blackwood had retreated back into itself, for now. But the questions remained. What had caused the strange occurrences? Who or what was behind the phone calls, and what other secrets lay hidden within the walls of the grand old hotel? The Grand Blackwood Hotel eventually reopened. The renovations were complete. The grand old dame had been given a new lease on life. Tourists flocked to its opulent lobby. Guests slept soundly in its luxurious rooms. Life went on, but the 11th floor remained off limits, permanently closed for renovation, a silent reminder of the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the surface. Some things are best left undisturbed. Some stories are better left untold. The Grand Blackwood Hotel had many stories within its walls, stories of grandeur and elegance, but also stories of darkness and despair, stories that whispered on the wind, stories that sent shivers down your spine, stories that stayed with you long after you had turned out the light.